Welcome, everyone. I am Melissa Delaney with PI Presence, and we take the opportunity as often as possible to meet with leaders that are breaking the barriers and shaking things up when it comes to marketing and influencing change for law firms and professional services organizations all over the country. And today I have a very special guest. I have Cameron Bachman with me, and he is with Structured Software. And we're going to be talking about a very hot topic that will continue to remain a hot topic. And so we may have some a potential for follow-up conversations around this. But we really are going to dig into basic AI, what the real impact is, what's hype, what's helping. And I really think this is
Yep.
going to be critical for a lot of big and small firms when it comes to the legal industry, as well as the staff and team that's following along with this hot topic, how they can make an impact for their firm and for their attorneys. And so we're really excited to have Cameron with us today. Thank you for being here, Cameron.
Thank you.
Yeah, if
Happy to
you
be
wouldn't
here.
mind giving a little introduction of yourself and how you got to be Cameron Bachman at Structured Software.
Yeah, my career has been kind of winding. I went to school in South Korea for international finance, and then I started working in marketing for some San Francisco startups, and kind of cut my teeth in tech there. Ended up in software sales, and that's where I started to learn more about just how to create software that moves the needle for small and medium-sized businesses as they're growing, because I think that's like the hardest stage to really
Mhm.
make good technology decisions
Yeah.
as an organization. And then really got fell in love with product management more than the sales side of just like really making those hard decisions and empathizing with the user, thinking about, what to build next and how and why, and working with teams like that. So that's how I find myself at Structured Software, where primarily we're working with like settlement finance companies and settlement planners, some of the best in the country, helping them figure out how to articulate what makes them different. And specifically in the legal space, there are, challenges that they encounter that aren't as prevalent in other industries.
Amazing. That's great. No, and that aligns perfectly with this topic of artificial intelligence. I mean, I think that you're probably seeing more of it than us strategic marketers or, coaches, but I'm hoping we can start simple. Let's
Mhm.
start with how you might describe the current state of how you would incorporate AI in a digital marketing strategy, especially from the
Sure.
angle or the lens of a law firm.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a lot of there's a fundamental technology shift that's occurring that everybody's experiencing. If you have ChatGPT or Claude and you use it to make queries, I think that those LLMs, you're getting familiar with how they kind of look at a lot of data and then are able to succinctly summarize that data in any
Mhm.
format that you ask it to.
Yeah.
And kind of that's generative AI, with large language models. And while AI includes more than that, I think what people are experiencing over the last 2 years is almost all driven by LLMs. Like that's where the big pop has come. But it's kind of been cooking in the background. Machine learning has been a hot topic for most of my career. And it's just finally reaching the point where it's able to make a positive impact for individuals and businesses so that people are experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because AI has this ability to help us get more work done, right? It streamlines our administrative function, and that's a really smart way to use it. And it definitely has helped
Mhm.
me in many capacity when you're just a single shingle person, or if you're a law
Yeah.
firm where your receptionist is also doing your marketing, like AI can really support and be a benefit, an added benefit if you're using it correctly. But the real question can be, as a follow up, how close are we willing to let AI get to the customer or client on
Yeah.
that end of the spectrum?
I think that again, you can kind of empathize with and think through this problem as a customer and like as you're experiencing AI in all these different areas. I think we're all becoming familiar with emails where you know that that was written by AI, and I've been asking myself like, is that a problem? Like the fact that this publisher emailed me and I know that her entire email came from AI, is that a problem, or does that mean that she's using tools intelligently? And so, the way that you articulated that with how close are we willing to let it get to the customer? I think it really just comes down to what value you're trying to bring to the customer. Are you making things better for them, or are you making it worse? And I think while that might be an oversimplification, that is a good true north. It really comes down to providing value. Even as a marketer, before they're your customer, you're trying to demonstrate value. And so I wouldn't do things that are watering down the client experience, but I would do things that make it better. And that's an easy way to think about it. AI chatbots are a really, like one of those obvious kind of implementations that people have been trying out. And I would say there's good ways to implement that and bad ways to implement that. If you're trying to replace a human, then to the customer, you're just being cheap, and that's how they're going to see it. But if you're making something like a contact form more interactive and a better experience so that let's say as a plaintiff and I have an injury from a car accident, what if an AI chatbot is just asking about my experience and everything that happened and gathering information about the facts of the case rather than just giving me a text box to write out what happened. And I think that is an improvement for the client. And so that's kind of how I think about that problem, but that is the problem, to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah, and I find like continuing that great factoid about like the chatbots, like if you're streamlining your intake form for a potential client that's coming in the door, that's also solving a process improvement problem for you, right? And that's
Right.
beyond marketing, but that becomes part of the client experience. Once the person,
Definitely.
I mean, at some point that person has Googled you. They have found your
Yeah.
website. They are now on your contact form, right? They used their search engine brain to find you in some capacity. So you
Or
are
Chat
already
GPT.
playing the game. Yeah, or ChatGPT, right. Yeah, and I want
Yeah.
to get to that subject too.
Yeah.
But now you need to make sure that the client experience is up to par because they will end up being a great referral network for you if you are handling the client experience, right?
Totally.
So it is a long, I mean, we just went from like here, let's talk about AI to like the 50,000 foot client experience strategy, but
Because really, marketing didn't change, right? It's
right,
just a new tool in the mix. And I think one thing that I think people are getting wrong here is that they're looking at AI as an entire strategy.
right.
Like, oh, how am I going to reach my market? I'm going to use AI. Well, I mean, you still need to figure out what your go-to-market strategy is. How
Right.
how are you communicating with people? What's the messaging? Where are you meeting them? All of those questions are still the same. It's just that there's new tools and new ways to approach those problems when you get to them.
But I mean, as someone who's working in the trenches, right, where is AI actually delivering some results? And where? I mean, is it the
Yeah.
content marketing? Is it the creative process? Is it the discovery platform? Is it brainstorming? Is it fleshing ideas out? Where are you seeing the actual
You
deliver
know,
results?
I think in the teams that I've been working with, where I'm seeing the biggest impact is I'm seeing individuals, humans that work at these companies being empowered and force multiplied in how they do it. So, if you're a marketer and you're asking a developer to uh, create a website for you, you really hope that they're using AI because you're going to get more bang for your buck on some of the things that they can shortcut. For example, I was working with a client on a redesign of their website, and they had this image that they just absolutely love that's kind of been part of their marketing But on the new design, it was the wrong dimensions. You know, it was too narrow, and we wanted a full width photo for the hero of that website. And the developer was able to just autonomously, intelligently decide, oh, like I can use generative AI to fill in, and make and widen that picture. And so it was like a photo of a pool, and like, there's kind of blurry water kind of going out to the edges, and it was seamless. I didn't recognize it until he told me that he had done that. And it's just those little things where each person who already has a job, is already a subject matter expert. They're the ones that are going to be able to kind of find those places where some of the things that take them longer or they get stuck on, they now have a set of tools to unstick them on.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you actually brought up development of websites because that's a nice segmentation over to kind of how we can advise people or how you would advise people on platform development from that perspective. Um,
Yeah.
where should a business owner or if it's a law firm with like three attorneys, and their receptionist is handling the marketing, or you know when they're thinking about and considering their websites, where should
Yeah.
business owners be using AI today?
Well, I think the business owners should be leveraging somebody who's using AI. I don't know that the business owner, I think one of the dangers here is that a business owner says, well, now I can just build my website myself. And I think that's where, because they're not necessarily a subject matter expert in building a website,
Mhm.
they might still make bad decisions. And guess what? AI wants you to feel good about what you get. So AI is really good at telling you that they gave you exactly what you want, and convincing you that this is it. And so that's a trap, that people can run into. So I don't think I think that there's more value available. Working with people, whether you're working with an agency or you hire an in-house developer, or it's your friend's son who just got out of college and is looking for a project. You know, those those individuals are going to be better empowered to do more, but you still need a little bit of understanding of like the basics of what you're trying to achieve, or you're gonna miss the mark. And I would say the platforms that, start to finish build an entire website, using AI, generally make things that are hard to maintain, and get expensive later.
Yeah.
And so, um, I I certainly do believe that in a few hours you can get a website that you're happy with, and you can probably even get it published with some help from AI. If you're a smart person with very limited technical knowledge, but you're willing
Yeah.
to try some things. I think
Yeah.
that's possible. But is that going to serve you when you need to make changes? Because now one of your attorneys left and your team page goes down from three to two. That might seem simple, but if you didn't think through the architecture when you were building the site, now like you might not have a design that's ready to, handle that, and it might be very hard to get AI to come back, remember what it did, and build off from there. So that's where I get a little bit worried about going too far in a technical area that you don't understand. I think lawyers would understand that I probably shouldn't be generating contracts and then sending them to my contractors, without having a lawyer review them, just because I kind of understand what I want. And I think it works the same way.
Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time. I see it all the time. People find the new hottest, coolest tool, whether that's, WordPress was it at the time, and that was
Yeah.
like a heavy lift for a business owner, but it was the high performing website or platform to use for a
Yeah.
website. And now you look at something like a Squarespace or Wix or whatever, and
Hmm.
you can easily out of the box design a website, right? That's
Hmm.
what those platforms are designed for. But for me, and the reason I love to work with organizations like yours and people who build websites more, with more strategy and more SEO background is that
Sure.
those types of platforms only give you like a visual presence and not necessarily so much a a push or performance based website, right? Like if
Sure.
you are dependent upon someone calling you for your expertise in your geography, those
Yeah.
websites might not necessarily perform professionally for you in the way that you expect them to, right? The return back is not going to be the same. Does it show that you own a business if somebody needs to look you up?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right? That's just kind of
Yeah.
a snapshot. But so does social media. And so it's
Yeah.
interesting like from a marketing strategy perspective for these smaller firms. Let's corner this to a smaller firm.
Sure.
What advice would you give if they are currently stuck in those non-performing websites? Like what's the lowest hanging fruit
Hmm.
for them for a
Yeah.
next step strategy? And like what would that recommendation be?
Sure. So I have consulted or spoken to multiple businesses where I ended up referring them out to a solo developer.
Hmm.
I think a lot of smaller teams, um, it's harder to work with an agency that is going to get you the most performance out of a fairly large budget. And a lot of business owners that are small, they're just getting started and they know what they want. They think they know what they want. They kind of just need a business partner, like somebody who's going to kind of work with them and iterate with them. And I think there, then I still advocate for the human element of the developer who knows which questions to ask. Something simple like, hey, so I'm going to build this website. Where should the contact form go to? Like who in your organization is going to receive it? And you'd be amazed at how many times you ask that question and they're like, huh, I haven't thought of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm, you know, I guess it's
A
you,
process.
Jessica.
Yeah.
That's kind of how those conversations go. And so I think that partnering again, I want to see that my developer is using AI, not that they are pitching that as the main value that they're bringing, but that they're looking for the smart ways where they're like, oh yeah, there's actually a tool that makes this thing that used to take 4 hours only take me 20 minutes.
Yeah, so
Um,
you're advocating for like embrace AI, don't be afraid of it, right? Like from all
yeah,
aspects. But at the same time, anybody who says that like they're smarter than AI, like maybe soften up a little bit. Let's embrace
yeah,
it just a smidge and make sure that you understand it, especially as if you're a consultant or providing a
yeah,
professional service to these organizations. Like you have to kind of lean in a little bit and start to
totally.
at least understand how to prompt it.
Exactly. And honestly, like that's my biggest piece of advice is to learn how to prompt it.
Mhm.
I one of my suggestions is like try to force yourself to produce something for your clients using AI.
Yeah,
Because just that exercise helps you because you kind of know what you want to give your client,
right.
and then and you'd probably just sit down and do it yourself, but now you're going to force yourself to try to get it out of AI. It might take the same amount of time. It might even take you longer because you're working out the kinks, but most likely what you're going to learn is you're going to learn what kind of questions were effective, what kind of instructions had the biggest impact. um, One of the things that we were doing, we were playing around very early on with ChatGPT on generating sales messages
Hmm.
to prospects, and they were just so very AI. Like you
A
just
little
could tell.
blah. Yeah, a little blah.
And this is like ChatGPT 3 or 3.5. Like it was multiple iterations of models ago. And one of the tricks that we discovered was if you ask the AI to only give its response in a fifth grade reading level, suddenly it sounds like marketing language. Because it
Wow.
was always spitting out, you know, academic level paragraphs. And it's like, that's not how people talk.
Right.
And so it just takes kind of learning, and different models have different strengths and weaknesses. And so another level would be to like be familiar with what models are out there and which ones are best suited for your work and what you're doing. Another area I think people can get into is using it to kind of round out their weaknesses. you know.
Sure.
So like, what are the things that get you stuck? And everybody has them, and they're different for each person. And you can ask AI to play that role,
Uh,
or when I'm playing this role, what should I do? Sometimes we get one of the cool things is like, have you ever sent an email and gotten a bounce back and it looks like it's an alien language and you're just like, I don't, there's an error, but I have no idea. You can copy and paste that into a chat GPT chat and not even tell it what you need to know. Just just put it in there and it will infer like, oh, you're having a problem. You want me to explain it. Here's what I think is happening. You know,
Interesting.
and and then you're like, okay, well, this came from my colleague at another company. What should I tell the IT company to do? And then I got it to give me like a one-page report, like, and I was like, here you go. Here's a PDF that explains to your team how to fix this technical error.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
like, I like technology. Email technology is not my favorite, and so very happy to just let AI kind of um, take advantage of all the knowledge that is out there that has been
Sure.
developed on the subject.
I mean, that kind of leads to a question from me that I think is super fascinating, but also a little bit of it's early stages, kind of like what you were talking about when it was generating academic content as opposed to
Mhm.
the more digestible version. Um,
Yeah.
and this really applies to law firms who are geographically based and reliant upon their local
hmm
community. Can someone teach AI to push their business when the appropriate keyword string questions are asked of it, and how?
Yeah, I mean, this is our favorite one, and I think it's our favorite one right now because it's so hard. And This has kind of been so I'm gonna put this in the lens of SEO, search engine
Sure.
optimization, but also
You kind of
but
have to.
this is LLMO, it's optimization for LLMs. But my 13-year-old has ChatGPT on his phone, and that's how he gets information. Like he does not go to Google and type something like that.
Wow.
That is what old people like me do. For and so we've done some research and we have some interesting data for right now, but I expect it to shift. And it's always been like that with search too. There have been entire companies built up on optimizing SEO in a certain way, and then Google just changes their algorithm one day, and their revenue just poof goes away. And they have to reinvent themselves and learn how to play the game again. And
Yeah.
so the best people in SEO, they're all excited about this because every time the game changes, is an opportunity for the top players to show that they are, on top of it and, analytical and willing to play the game quicker and faster than the competition. So right now, what we've seen is that if you write a um, like a friendly consumer level piece of content that fluffy content, then ChatGPT is more likely to summarize it and give you no credit.
Interesting.
Not just ChatGPT. That's the main one that I use for these chats myself, but there's other ones out there, and we've tested with those, roughly the same results. But if you create more technical content, um, textbook type stuff, instruction manuals, that stuff, ChatGPT is less confident about summarizing and paraphrasing, and so it's more likely to cite you.
Interesting.
Um, but it's interesting because like what I fully expect is that some of these platforms are going to come out with dashboards for marketers to look
Yeah.
at, just like we go to Google Search Console and look at
Right.
what are people searching to find me. I can't wait until I have analytics on like how often was my site cited in chats and like, getting some information, which should scare you as the customer about, what businesses are going to get access to your activity on ChatGPT. Like that, those are things that we just have to keep being very mindful of. But I do think that that is where things are going. people are getting information in a new way. And that's happened so many times in the course of technology, the evolution of technology. And so it's on us to figure out how do we get our clients or ourselves to be the answer, which
Sure.
is the same. It's the same thing we've been trying with Google. Once again, fundamentally, it's the same. It was the same in the phone book, right? When you were buying ads in the phone book.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Really bringing us back. That's awesome. You know,
I
and
only briefly experienced phone books.
right. I mean, I think there's great consideration to be made, especially with when it comes to warnings or pitfalls. But if you're embracing and you're leaning into AI, you know, you also have to kind of consider the ethical lines. Like
Hmm.
when does automation get too personal, either on the customer side or on the business side? And can you control that? I mean, this is getting a little philosophical, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you have to monitor it. At the end of the day, especially as lawyers, you know, your local bar association, state bar association, and the federal bar association want to make sure that you are complying by the marketing ethic rules.
Yeah.
But if when AI gets involved, you still have to maintain those ethical boundaries. So,
Yeah.
it comes down to reviewing, obviously, editing in as much as possible, but making sure it's not getting too personal as well.
What do you mean when you say personal? Like, what would you define as too personal for yourself?
I mean, you kind of brought up a great point about, you know, we can get these analytics about what people are
Sure.
searching. And like so many organizations, I can talk about a tool and it'll show up on my phone as an ad push in social media the next day, right? Like there's
Yep.
just so much that it's not a coincidence anymore. It's clearly
Yeah.
somebody was market targeting us. And these tools exist, but is it getting too personal? Like if I'm having a conversation with a client and my phone picks it up and now it's pushing for a divorce lawyer, but I'm not getting a divorce, right? Is it getting too personal?
Yeah.
Is it because it's not differentiating? Like they came to me for a divorce attorney recommendation and I gave it, and now they're pushing one toward me, right? That's
Yeah.
it. They're disconnecting the human element, which is something that you've brought up multiple times.
Yeah. So I think like us as users, we have a spectrum of like
Yeah.
how comfortable we are with that thing. I've always kind of ended up on well, if you're gonna give me something valuable for free, sure, have my data. Like I'm
Sure.
not shy about it. So many people feel strongly in the opposite way. And I think that kind of demonstrates that it's a personal choice. And then, so for us as marketers, are we giving our clients or our customers the option or the awareness of how they're like who they're interacting with or what they're interacting with, first of all, and whether systems or other players have access to the data that I'm giving. And frankly, most small businesses don't have any good way to know whether that's true with all of the
Right.
systems that they're using.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like I think transparency is like where I come on the ethics. Like that's my core value that I want people to know. Like, yeah, I'm using AI. Like
Yeah.
this is like I often say to a client, like, hey, I heard you on this problem. I did a little bit of digging around on AI and this is what I got. You
Yeah.
know, and so I'm not claiming that as my own work product, but I'm also demonstrating that I didn't spend a bunch of your money trying to do something that
Right.
I could do, you know, pretty easily and effectively,
Hmm.
um, for way faster and thus way cheaper when you're
Yeah.
billing by the hour. And I think that's true for lawyers too. I'm not a lawyer, can't speak to the legal efficacy of this, but like I think personally, I'd want a lawyer who is using AI for general questions, not putting my information into a system about my case, but I would like
Absolutely.
them to use whatever the most effective tools are when they're billing me at, hundreds of dollars an hour
Yeah.
or, a contingent fee even. I want them to be doing the most effective job they can.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that you brought up tools. I mean, that's such a you know, that's a hard advisory section for us marketers, right? Like there are so many tools out there from email tools to,
Yeah.
um, you know, actually, let's start there. Let's start with email tools. Are you seeing AI email tools that are actually helping with any open rates or click throughs? Because you had mentioned earlier that email marketing wasn't your favorite. So I want to circle back to
It's
that a little
not.
bit.
Yeah.
So tell
Well,
us in the audience
email
why. And then,
technology, like the way
yeah,
that the protocols used on email are kind of arcane because they're so old. So that's, one aspect of it. It's also very hard to, like, even before generative AI was in the market, it was really hard to reach the inbox. And I found some other ways that I prefer as a marketer to to get in front of clients. And so my focus, like because email has been getting harder and harder, and
hmm
there's new avenues opening up all the time. I've always leaned toward content marketing and other organic growth strategies. Um, but I think with AI, now there's a flood of low quality spam, out there too, where where it's just easier for them to send pretty, full messages to people via email. In terms of the tools that I've seen out there that are effective, we just did an evaluation for a sales team on an email tool that I thought was really cool. And it leverages all of your HubSpot data. I don't want to name any specific tools right now because the
right.
market's just changing so fast, and I
And it's
I
saturated.
expect it to just churn. But it's looking at your HubSpot and it's looking at all of your history, not just with this potential lead, but it's also looking at all of the interactions that you've had with other similar leads, and it's trying to guess what the most effective way to act next would be. So it's not just writing your message, but it's also telling you, hey, like follow up on Tuesday afternoon. That's the most likely time that you're gonna get a
Yeah.
response from this person.
Yeah. Is
And
that like
so,
a good example of how AI marketing really can save a client time?
yeah.
Without
So like I
necessarily
think
without necessarily blowing up their brand or their voice or their, credibility out there.
exactly. I think when you think once again AI is a little bit of a misnomer because we're talking specifically about large language models. And what these models are really effective at doing is considering a ton of data all at once.
Mhm.
And so much more quickly than any other method that's out there. So when you think about our HubSpot, I could tell a human, hey, with this deal, think about it, and then go find a bunch of other deals that are similar and do some analysis and think about when the right time to reach out to them would be. But, that's where you're able to leverage your data and get AI to parse it and not only compare it within your own data set, but also compare it to the internet and all of
Yeah.
the other data that's been in that model. And
Interesting.
that's another kind of warning here is that most ordinary users of AI products, you are informing the model when you use it. Um, one of the trades, one of the bargains, especially if you're a free user, is that your prompts and how you like those prompts and whether you follow up, that data is being used to tell the model, yeah, you did a good job with this one, or actually that's not what they
Right.
were looking for. And so we, as an organization, because we work with legal clients, are very sensitive on that, and we make sure that we use only products that won't train on our data.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just one directional. And there are some fireproof, kind of bulletproof ways that you can implement that. If you're really advanced, you can actually have a local large language model that's not connected to a server out there, and you can
Yeah.
run it all locally to protect yourself.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you can talk about the risk. I mean, we have to be able to warn firms where to be cautious, and that's a big part of our advisory
Definitely.
responsibility as, consultants. But what's one thing where you kind of wish every firm asked before integrating a new tool, so to speak? Especially since there's,
Yeah.
like I said, it's saturated. The markets are saturated with these tools. There's enough out there. everything can do something. Anything
Yep.
they don't necessarily do one thing perfect. They might do one thing perfectly, but not everything perfectly, right? So, what's one thing you wish every firm would consider before integrating new tools?
I think they need to consider that data set. They need to consider what data is this system going to have access to? Is that enough data for it to do a good job? Like that's like if you just blindly download and or like sign up with a new software that promises that it's going to just write social media posts for you. Um, what is it going to base those on? Just like if you hired a marketing intern that was going to write social media posts from you, you'd probably want to point them in a direction and be like, well, here's 15 articles that I've authored, so just like use those as reference material. And so just signing up and clicking, once again, this is like the AI isn't a strategy on its own. Like it's not a standalone go-to-market strategy. It's just a tool. And so you have to really be thinking about what do you want the result to be? And does the system have the correct data to get that result?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched on it earlier, and I think that this perfectly aligns with a follow-up question to that. But, you know, the human impact of AI is very important, and I think it makes marketing more authentic if you're using AI
Mhm.
for strategy because of the human element. You can't lose the human element or you lose the human connection,
Yeah.
which legal industry is completely relationship driven and
Mhm.
in person. It is fully in
Yeah.
person. Whether it's, over Zoom or, in like face to face, it is still in person. So, one of the things that you have mentioned is investing time in training of these tools, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to using AI or even something as basic as ChatGPT and learning to prompt it. You know,
Yeah.
how do you keep this human element writing alongside of it? What would be your advice to some of these people who are using it?
I would start at the top. Like I would not I think something that I'm seeing is that leadership of organizations is like the last one to start using AI. But they expect their junior colleagues to be using it. And they tell them to. And they tell them how should we be using AI. And I think let's say that you're the managing partner at a firm and that you have a marketing associate or a paralegal that does some of your marketing work, however your firm is structured, the two of you are going to use AI in different ways.
Right.
And so you're not really leveraging AI if you tell somebody else to do it. Like I think that leadership
Fair
needs to be
point.
using it
Yeah.
so that they can understand when to use it. And I've gone through this with like some clients. It's really hard. It's like, seriously, like we could have gotten on this 15-minute Zoom, or you could have just asked ChatGPT this question. Like just try it. Like, not that I mind getting on these Zooms with you, but I just like I'm pretty sure that you're going to be really happy once you just take the plunge. And there's
Yeah.
some people that need to kind of be pushed off the diving board, as it were. But then there's others that are in there swimming. And I've really enjoyed working with some clients as a consultant. Sometimes it can feel threatening when they are like trying to do your job, but it's actually helpful in collaboration because like they kind of get 80% of the way there on their own, and then you're able to kind of like connect it to actionable insights when you bring your experience and expertise. And so I've really enjoyed working with some clients who are like, I've been thinking about the branding on this, and I was just up late at night talking to ChatGPT about it. And thank goodness they weren't up at late at night talking to me about it. And then they give me 3 pages of information and some really ugly images that they generated, and they're like, "Here's what I got. Go from there." And like I think that was helpful, and I think it also helped them work out the kinks in their own brain, because like a lot of consulting in marketing and branding is therapy, where you're helping your client find themselves and helping
Yeah.
them understand who they are, and narrow in that story. Those are really great conversations to have with ChatGPT or similar language models, where you're just having a conversation, you're asking for some guided brainstorming, I organizing thoughts. It's really good at organizing thoughts. If you're bad at organizing thoughts, then you can kind of say, hey, like I know I need to think through this problem, but I want a structured approach for it. Can you help me? And then it'll say, sure, like, let's talk about this first. And you
Right.
can actually like, instruct a model to be a professional for you. And I
Yeah.
think that's helpful. Once again, you're not replacing anyone. You're just making yourself more competent so that you can interact with those people, more effectively and get more done.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great advice. I mean, I have a client who I had him go use ChatGPT, honestly. And it was
Yeah.
because, you know, he's rebranding, he's rediscovering who his audience is. And that was part of my coaching call with him, is who are you
Hmm.
speaking to, right? Who are you adding value to, and who are your perfect clients? Now go to ChatGPT and take the website that you currently have, the content, not the website, the content on your site, and ask them to generate three different sites for the three different audiences that you are now
There
seeing.
you go.
And it
There you go.
helped him to understand that he was communicating his experience from his seat to the world, but it wasn't
Totally.
landing with anyone. And so you have to really like refine your communication out to the world, to the specific audience you're trying to bring back in. And it was a great exercise from a coaching
Yeah.
perspective, but also helped with generating content for the website for his marketing. And it really helped be
Yeah.
able to change up some of the SEO components. Like we've really circled back to SEO. And I think that's the biggest for me use of my time with AI is it's not only teaching the AI the keywords, it's
Hmm.
regenerating back keywords, right? It's all words.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me because you know, I was a philosophy major in college, which it wasn't
Okay.
forever ago, but it brings me back to that. Like, what are the philosophical implications of the words that we're using? What would Plato say? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really takes you back. But I want to do a little closing reflection because this has been such a fascinating
Sure.
topic. But I think we're going to be coming back to, especially teaching AI to search for
Hmm.
businesses and how we can leverage that. I think that's going to be big coming up.
Yeah.
Um, and we might want to talk about that more. But we
Yeah.
both have worked with all kinds of firms, from lean teams to big organizations, giant organizations. Everyone is typically in a highly regulated industry. You know, what is one mindset shift that any professional that you work with really needs to make to use AI well now?
Um, yeah, I think that the biggest hurdle, and I think I've touched on this in different ways already, but the biggest thing is not just blindly saying, yeah, this is going to solve the problem. I was involved in a startup in like 2016 where we fundraised on the back of AI. We said that we were going to use AI to do something, and that was how we got our seed funding. And it was such a empty, empty buzzword that just lit up the lights in the eyes of investors. Like, oh, well, this could be big just because it's AI. And I think now on the consumer level, or even as the business user, the business customers out there that are deciding whether to use these different tools or products, they're thinking about it like, oh, this is a chat bot, but it uses AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, maybe think harder about like what's wrong with a chatbot that doesn't use AI. Like, what are you expecting you to? I believe the AI chatbot is going to be better, but like, do you know why? And then, if you do, you can make more purposeful decisions there. And so, I definitely seen what I think are hasty decisions to use AI by just like, yeah, that sounds great. You know, it can obviously do all of these things.
Right.
But even with that email tool that I mentioned earlier that uses HubSpot, we ended up not moving forward with them just because it wasn't in line with what the team needed to be focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it was a powerful application and it seemed really cool, was it really going to help the business, the sales rep close more business, or was that not
Right.
really the right problem to solve? And so I think that's what it comes down to is like, are you solving the right problems?
Right.
Because people are messaging you, they're getting in front of you, you're hearing about all these different products, you're making, you know, 50 decisions a day not to buy something that's being offered to you in terms of like software for your business. And so as that's being presented to you, um, are you thinking, oh, that is a felt need that we currently have, and that's going to address the most important problem that I should be solving as a business owner?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they tend not to be like the AI derivative systems, because software, really what's happening is the LLMs, they just do a thing, like you send them a query, they send you a response, and that's it. And then people are building interfaces that kind of get that same thing to do something through your system. So like one of my favorite tools is like when we're recording our Zooms, and we're having Zoom meetings, internal Zoom meetings or client Zoom meetings, and then I can ask my system, hey, what were the three requirements that the client gave us for this website?
Mm-hmm.
What were the three most important things? I know they mentioned them. What were they? And it'll give me the three bullet points, like just by looking at the transcript. I could have done the same thing by, just recording a transcript, typing it live, and then copy and pasting that into ChatGPT. So really all the system is doing is connecting those pipes.
Right.
And so I think that's where sometimes the value is a little thin. Like, hey, we helped you think of a good way to use AI, so now pay us money. But really, you need to be thinking kind of like one step higher than that in terms of like, what's the problem that I need to solve? And if somebody already built it, like I'm not saying that you should build it yourself. Like, go ahead and pay them the money and keep moving with your business. But be solving the right problems.
Yeah, no, this is great advice. I mean, from a mind shift standpoint, you're essentially saying if you're not familiar with or you're new to AI, here's how you can embrace it. Like think of it as a tool that one, you naturally trust technology when you understand it, right?
Yeah,
Especially when you know how it works. So use it in one of these three ways to elevate
totally.
what you are already doing. So just, a gut check and make sure you captured everything. Using it as a collaboration tool. So assign yourself and whoever you're collaborating with to both use it and to elevate themselves and come together to
Yeah,
collaborate. And then use it as a problem solving tool. I think those are three phenomenal
totally.
avenues for any new user. Um, Also helps people not be so afraid of it, right? And
Yeah.
kind of lean in.
Let me give like kind of like a homework to the person who's listening to this who has like somehow resisted using AI to this
Yeah,
point.
do it.
If you haven't used it, but people around you are, here's two exercises that you can do. The first is the next time you have an email that you write that feels important, like I need to think about how to word this carefully. It's a delicate topic. I don't want them to think that the whole project's at risk. Whatever is making you kind of feel antsy about it and you're putting a lot of work into drafting it. Just take your final email, paste it into ChatGPT or a similar product, and say, clarify this, and then see what it gives you back. Because when you overthink an email, you actually end up communicating worse than
Absolutely.
and sometimes you can't see it after you're done writing that email. So that's one easy way to just kind of like have that aha moment of like, oh, this is the sort of thing that it can do. Another one is look over somebody's shoulder while they're using it. Whether that's,
Oh,
get on Zoom and just have them share their screen while they're typing. Like if you have somebody in the office who uses ChatGPT and then you're having a problem, say, hey, can you come in here and just like sit down at my desk and use ChatGPT to solve this problem? I just want to watch how you do this because I'm curious. Like those are good ways that we've found to kind of break past that initial resistance. And then
that's
once you're
fabulous.
past that,
Yeah.
I think you're off to the races.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, I think that's a great final thought for this topic today and give
Yeah.
someone some homework assignments. I mean, I'll add in my own homework assignment that you can use this for things outside of your professional sphere as well. I used it just the other day for helping this volunteer organization I work with price out some food that they're selling to the community. And it was like,
Love
I
it.
don't do that for a daily, that's not my daily job, but guess what? I'm sure ChatGPT has some statistics that they can give it back to me and we could price point this effectively and for our community, right? So it worked out and it was very helpful, but
Yeah.
you can use it for anything, not just for
One
work.
of one of my favorite personal uses of it has been one day I went to Safeway and I got those pre-made like stuffed mushrooms that you put in the oven
Hmm.
that from the deli, but there weren't baking instructions. Like the sticker with the baking instructions were not on the tray. So I just took a picture of the styrofoam tray with the little portobello mushrooms in there, and I said, "How do I make this?" And it gave me the whole recipe. Preheat your oven to blah
Amazing.
blah blah. Put a little bit of olive oil on top. Like all of that stuff, and they came out great. And I was like, okay, this
Amazing.
is why my 13-year-old. That's the only way he uses it because he uses the internet because that's all he needs. There's danger in that, but I think that's for another day.
Yes, we can definitely talk about those pitfalls for hours, I
Yeah,
bet. Well, this
yeah,
has been phenomenal, and I can't thank you enough, Cameron. Hopefully we have inspired some folks to either look up some recipes to start to embrace AI, or at least for their professional, background, use it for a collaboration tool or a problem-solving tool. So thank you so much for your time
yeah.
and your advice today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation. So thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Melissa. It's been a pleasure.